Welcome, everybody, back to the Morning Update Show. I'm your co host, Trey Holiday, and I'm excited to dive in with Miss Cindy Bright doing so many amazing things. Author, coach, motivational speaker, radio host. I mean, it's so great to have you on the Morning Update Show with us today.
Thank you, Trey. Thanks for having me here. I am used to being the person doing the interview, so this is an honor to get to sit with you and do this.
Absolutely. Well, I think it's important. I mean, we talk about what so many of our Black community members face oftentimes, and you have brought your experience into a book as the author of Color of Courage, Crushing Racism in Corporate America. It's something I dealt with so much. Let's make sure the folks understand what you have in this book for them.
Yeah, first off, I brought a copy for you guys. So this is the book that you guys can keep and share with the community. This book is about one of my stories of basically a takedown of myself in corporate America. And so I use this story to teach people and tell people what's really going on inside of corporate America, why this is not just a hiring diversity issue. This is a massive ecosystem issue, and I'm revealing what that ecosystem looks like, and then I'm helping my Black readers particularly to learn the system that's in place that is oppressing us and equipping them with language and information that they need to have to empower them to ask for more. So the whole notion of generational wealth and the things that our community suffers from is what I'm revealing. I'm exposing that in the book, and I'm calling for basically a revolution of change inside of corporate America.
Wow. And, you know, Omari kind of alluded to it earlier, but just a lot of your experience in like HR, I want to kind of dive into that because I think, it's so much of what we experience as an employee, but also too, you see the back end of all of that. You kind of pull the curtain back a little bit. Tell us more about your experience in that regard.
You know, I spent 3 decades, so I say I'm older than I look. I spent 3 decades in corporate America as an HR person. The last many of those years, I was an executive level, and so I sat at the table with decision makers on how we made decisions about our business. Many Black people, particularly Black women, are working in the back office type of jobs, so people like me, HR, finance, marketing. That is not necessarily where the money is to be made there. The money is being made on the profit and loss side of the business, and it is difficult, almost impossible for Black people, Black women to get into that space. The other thing I saw repeatedly, you know, I was responsible to do succession planning, so planning for the next leaders. It was rare that I saw we would put Black people on the list, but I honestly can't tell you a time in 30 years that I saw one of those succession plans actually promote a Black person from these plans into leadership. We are not viewed by corporate America as leaders. I don't care what they say, they are not, their actions are not matching their words. And so those are the type of things I'm talking about. I'm talking about pay. I'm talking about pay in a huge way because, as you I'm sure know and our community knows, Black people, Black women are being paid 63 cents on the dollar to the white male, and we are being exploited, particularly by white women in these organizations. And so one of the things I call for is a cleaning out of middle management, because that's where, to give it a relevant headline for this week, the Rachel Nichols of the world exist in middle management, and that is what is keeping us from rising.
You know, I mean, so much of what you're talking about really strikes me because I found myself beating my head against a wall, trying to provide and showcase my value in a way that would be accepted, appreciated, acknowledged, right, in a corporate space. And I remember being at a startup, and I literally created 3 jobs for this startup, right? I was doing them all myself. And then when I moved departments, they had to hire 3 people to do the work that I was doing myself. And then I built up an entire department, and what they said was, great job. But did they actually understand the value of what I was bringing in terms of my personality, my lived experience, my skill set for building people up? And I would be like, how is it that so many of my peers can see this, but those that matter in terms of really elevating me in that succession plan that you talk about, that was not happening. So you're saying this is really a design of the system. It isn't something that I was just experiencing as a single Trayana, Black woman out there trying to make it.
Trey, no, first off, let me acknowledge that I know that your battle was way more difficult than my battle, simply because we are two different shades of black. So let's start there. The fact that you're darker skinned than me, I know what you faced. I saw it, I witnessed it. I dealt with it to a different degree. I was considered acceptable as long as I behaved with the whites. Black people who go in, we do work like dogs. We outwork all of our peers. We're accustomed to that. But we're expected to do that while the people, I call them the mediocre. And let me just be clear, the white men in power, in charge, they're not as smart as they think they are. They are just there because they have the benefit of the boys club. I call it the GOB. In my book, I actually have chapter 2 about the 10 commandments of the good old boys and what is happening with pleasing them, and then the white women that uphold them. So I've coached, I could talk to many black women who come out of these major companies, and they are struggling with the exact issue that you talk about. And I feel at this point like I don't have advice anymore but to leave, because I don't see the authenticity from these companies around really making a difference with black people. They will post things on their website. They will send us all an email after George Floyd died, but then there's crickets for the following year about their standing behind social justice and making sure that brown and black lives matter in these organizations.
Yeah, you know, when we talk about performative action, I found so much of that happening, and it's really what you're describing there in terms of, you know, we have to say something, so let's say something. But is it really at our core values? Is it really a principle that we're bringing into our employment environment, our corporate environment? Are we changing the way that we do business to really acknowledge the wealth and breadth and brilliance, really, of what we have in our staff? I think that what you're describing is so key, and so many of us, I mean, we were just talking about it in the previous segment, how, you know, look, you can go to a white-led educational institution and be doing exactly what you're talking about, Cindy, working 3 times as hard as any student around you, just trying to make sure that they understand that you deserve to be there. And
Yes.
then you take that same experience from your college years and you merge it into corporate America, because that's what you feel like you have to do. How do we break the monotony in terms of even us identifying that we are valued, that we do have so much brilliance that we can bring to these spaces? How do we begin to break that ideology in the black community?
That's a great, loaded, heavy question. What you're referencing with Nicole back at University of North Carolina, what she stood for was something. She stood for something when she made a decision to walk away, because it only took one white guy to sit at a table and go, you know, I don't know about that subtle sabotage. That sabotaging is happening 24/7. And so the systems that they put in place, the tenure system, Cornel West faced it too, right? The systems that they put in place are not designed for us to access it. And when we have the audacity to expect to have the same thing, look at what begins to unravel. And they look for things that is wrong with us to tear us down and tear us apart and then sabotage us behind the scene. When you read some of the things in my book, how I talk about the actual HR network and the behind the scenes work that goes on to do the digging to find out something about people and then use that against people, that system is what I aim to destroy. I'm just done with it. You're asking the right questions about we can't prevail while the culture is pervasive with the Rachel Nichols of the world, who appear to be woke, white, progressive. I believe in diversity. Those are all the things that they will say. But then they think the mic is off, and they're saying to the other person, I don't know about Cindy. Cindy's she's too outspoken. She's, all the things that are. And so it's A, B, C, and D. It's predictable behavior. I've seen it my entire career.
Wow. I mean, just kudos to you for having the foresight to really put this out there for all of us to begin to understand. I think that, so many people understand it from a lived experience perspective, but not really from how it's being done, in this systemic way. I mean, we talk about this all the time, and I use this quote often in community, because when I think about what we did to get to where we are now, right, as a Black community, as Black people, and I think about the end of Martin Luther King's life, really, and how his message began to change and merge. And one of the things that always strikes me is when he said, I feel I've led my people into a burning bush. Mm-hmm. And I realized that that's such a loaded quote there, because here we were, begging, again, almost begging and pleading to be equal to a certain degree. And where has that gotten us to this day? I think that what you're describing in terms of what's happening in corporate America is a lot of what the foundation of America was. It just merged into the corporate sector. That's what built the corporate sector. And we have to kind of wake up to that realism in terms of identifying, when we are a part of that system, what is it that we're going to do now to start really figuring out how to stand up like you did?
Corporate America is a microcosm of America. You're literally walking into the microcosm when you go in. And there's not enough of us inside at influential levels to be able to move this mountain, because we are hired as tokens to meet their diversity quota so that the white men can get their huge bonuses every year, while the Black and brown people are marginalized and kept down low. Now, there are people who rise. I don't want to say that people don't, but it is very, very, what is the term? The air at the thinnest top. And so it is very difficult to rise above those middle management ranks because of the toxicity and the BS that we have to tolerate, and the people trying to claw us down as we're climbing. And so you're right. I mean, I'm revealing it in my book, what's going on. In good conscience, I can't refer people into some of these organizations. I'm watching some of them are trying, but I can't send good people in there, and certainly not my son and our kids and this next generation of leaders. We cannot subject them to that kind of abuse anymore. Wow. It is an abusive, toxic environment for brown and Black people to be in.
When we talk about this, I mean, we think about in community treating the whole person. And so much of what I'm hearing you say, that's resonating with me right now, because the truth of the matter is that tokenism is real. I see it in the nonprofit industrial complex. We talk about how there's people that really want to sell our struggle without being a part of the struggle, right? And we talk
Don't get me started, Trey.
We talk about that all the time. So I think about so much of what you're describing in corporate America is also felt in all of these different sectors, whether it's nonprofit, whether it's education. We're talking about the fact that there's a real ideology that has been permeated through so many different systems.
Yep.
And I think it's experienced, particularly for Black people, in a very unique way. You're describing it in corporate America, but even as you're talking, I'm thinking about, white-led organizations that got our Black babies all in their flyers.
That's in my book.
Yeah, see, that right there, that's what I'm saying, is that it expands beyond. And I love that you're doing that. How do you move all of your knowledge into how you're doing motivational speaking and into your radio show?
It's just been an evolvement for me, Trey. I call it a transfiguration. So when you start to become a deeper being and you start to care about things more than the worship of money, I've become better by doing that and focusing on where these issues lie. Because as you just said, I actually had a white nonprofit CEO on my show, and I asked the question, if the title CEO wasn't behind your name, would you still be in that nonprofit? And there was a pause, because the white women, the white people want all the power. Are their hearts in the issues? Maybe. Are they willing to relinquish it and let a black woman lead? Have you ever asked a white woman to step aside and let a black woman come forward and watch the reaction on their faces? This is the issue. And so they feel very entitled to have all the money, all the jobs, and put us at the bottom, and then we do all the work to make them shine, and then our bonuses or our pay does not reflect our contributions. That is the reckoning that we are having in this country right now. That is the reckoning I am calling for, because you can't have our money if you won't have us. Period.
Nothing about us without us is what we're starting to say, right? And
Yes.
I'm getting a little bit perplexed here, because I just love what you're saying, and I think it takes so many more of us that have the insight and really that have been there and struggling in that regard too, because it takes a toll on you as a person when you really identify what is going on and how your position is a part of this. And I think that so many more people need to be able, just like you have done, just like others are starting to really do, to say, you know what, no, this is too much, and it's not about my retirement, and it's not about that. We have to start taking a stand. And I also think that this is why when we talk about investing in black businesses and us creating our own to a certain degree, you know, one of my eldest mentors always says that, you know, there was a moment in time when black brilliance thrived the most, and it was before we integrated, right? So when I think about the Dr. King quote, and I think about us just constantly trying to prove to everybody that we're worthy, you know, we think about you know, all of these movements, right? Civil rights, they're just asking for people to be civil with them. And now Black Lives Matter, we're just asking that you recognize that our lives matter. These are not even prominent statements. They're very, very subtle, just saying, hey, recognize us, acknowledge us. I love what you're doing and what you're putting in your book. What are some of the takeaways before we let you go? Because I could talk to you forever, Cindy. I mean, this is beautiful, and what you're doing is very, very inspiring. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you for stepping out and stepping up to give us all a leg up into how all of this stuff is working, because it isn't something that we're just dealing with in a silo. It's not about our individual experience. It really is designed to be this way.
Yes.
What is one of the biggest things you really want people to take away from the book?
I want people to know that, particularly in the pay area, so I describe and reveal what the pay structures actually look like. Now, what's different, what people have called for, is pay transparency, and the response to that has been just to share the level, the range of the job. That's not where the wealth is. I'm teaching them that there is an actual structure in place, and you need to understand where your level is relative in the structure and relative to where equity is given in these roles, because that's where the earning power is. And I explain how stock works, restricted stock, like that's where our lives can change, and that's what they're keeping us away from. That's one major takeaway. The second is, I would say, just in my personal story, when you read what transpired there to get to be publicly fired the way that I was, and the fact that I was told, I sued and I won in this lawsuit. I fought like a dog with a prominent civil rights attorney, Judith Longquist, here in Seattle. I fought to get back what they took from me, that they were giving to all the white people, including the white woman who was having this affair and creating all the ruckus in the business. She was written a check to go away and retire quickly with her now new husband, while the black woman who's here trying to do the right thing is being tore down by her, no less, for trying to protect her from the good old boys. And so when you see this toxic system that's at play, and how it doesn't matter how much good you do for them as a black woman, at the end of the day, the feeble, white woman who says, but, Cindy was blah, 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 blah. That's all it takes for them to tear our careers apart. And so I'm showing that because I believe that the executive suite needs to begin to recognize what is really at play here instead of taking their word for it about my character or my qualifications or my this or my that, and start looking back at who's creating these problems in the business and who are the people. I call for them to go to every black person and ask who are the racists in these organizations, because we all know we all have to live around these folks day in and day out, and that is where the reckoning starts. And if they want to promote diversity in their business, that's where you start. Don't hire us in, put this burden on our backs, bring one black person in, and then we've got to tolerate all this toxicity around us, and we're expected to thrive, and then we're not given any grace. Sha'Carri Richardson, you're stressed, you have all these mental health, we're not given grace for any of it. And so that is the takeaway for the executives. And then for my black readers, I'm teaching them how to go after the actual where the money is and at least start asking the right questions.
Cindy, I oh my gosh. I mean, you're a gem. You are a straight gem. I mean, honestly, so many of our people need to hear this message, and I can't wait for our crew to clip this out and just give people these gems, because I think that, we need more and more examples of what it looks like to do the right thing, even when it's uncomfortable for us, even though you had to go through that lawsuit and fight like a dog and fight tooth and nail to get what you were owed. Yep. I think that more and more people who see that, wait a minute, man, I don't have to endure this on my own. I can do something about this. And my biggest mantra here on the Morning Update show and everywhere is for people to see themselves as a part of the solution. And you have done just that. And before I let you go for real, how can you encourage others to do what you have done for other people that are just like you, that are in these corporate structures, that are dealing with all of this stuff? What is your final message to them in terms of maybe following your lead here?
Yeah, boy. On one hand, I want to say to them to stand up and fight. I would say on the other hand, that was a battle that not many people are equipped to handle. That was a no-joke time in my life, and they expected me to go away. I do believe every black person should be speaking up. This is the time now to make a difference. You have to recognize that when you do speak up, there's going to be backlash, whether it's direct to you or subtle behind you. And you have to prepare yourself for that. And you also have to mentally prepare for an exit, because once you speak up, they come after you. And so, but we have to do this, Trey. We can't continue to tolerate this abuse. We can't continue to let white wealth be built on our backs, and we are not getting an equitable split on the profitability of these companies. We deserve to have that. We work for that. We are not marginalized. We are not dumber. Black women are the most highest rate of higher education right now coming out of the academia world, and yet we are not the highest. The diversity hires are the white women. They're using gender as a way of promoting diversity and not us. And so, I'm on my own. I'm doing like you. I'm on air every week talking about these issues, helping black women get elected into office, putting money behind campaigns of progressive black people who will force the hands of these corporations if they don't change willingly.
I'm so inspired. I'm so inspired.
Just a fighter, Trey, right?
Yeah,
I'm just a fighter.
Yeah. Just let the folks know how they can get in touch with your radio show so they can learn more outside of this interview.
That's so awesome. Thank you for giving me the space to do that. My show is Heartbeat Radio. I air it live every Wednesday at 7 p.m. I'm on Rainier Avenue Radio. And so we're live on Facebook and Twitch and YouTube and all those sorts of things. So you can catch my show there. I archive my shows on my website, which is cindybright.com, Cindy with an I. And then you can just reach out to me, Cindy@cindybright.com. If people need guidance, advice, or that sort of thing, I'm always happy to respond on email to people who need some quick counsel. So.
Wow. You guys, Cindy Bright. Oh my gosh. I'm like over here beaming because y'all know I'm always saying, man, see yourself as a part of the solution. And I love sitting in this studio and getting this inspired by somebody who is doing everything they possibly can to make sure that we are engaged, informed, and educated about how to see ourselves as part of the solution. I can't thank you enough, Miss Cindy Bright, for being here with us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate this.
Absolutely.
Love to you guys here.